content. So that might be about the baseball game, or it might be about the meal they made last night and things like that. So the content isn't just pure work, command
Okay.
information. It is a lot of that, but also we mirror kind of normal radio stations as well.
Man, that's so cool. So basically, like the whole setup that you have at home is not for podcasting, right? That's not your main thing?
No, I mean, this is all equipment that I've been in broadcasting communications for 10 years now. And along the way, you buy the gear that served you best when you were doing a radio show. Like, oh, I really like that microphone, I'm going to buy that. Or I really like those headphones, I'm going to buy that. But yeah, so I first started broadcasting actually in Amsterdam. This is before AFN. I lived in Amsterdam for a year, and I was the co-host and then the host of what's called the English Breakfast Radio
Oh my god.
in Amsterdam. Yeah, I was the only English guy on there as well, so that was good. And then we moved to Germany, and when we came to Germany, I was worried that my radio dream was dead because I'm like, there's no English radio stations in Germany. And we were driving through Frankfurt one day, and I heard an American voice, which isn't unusual on the radio to hear an American voice, but normally then the German voice comes in and overdubs it. But this time they didn't, and I'm like, what is this? And I drove home and I tried to Google it, and I was like, I had no idea there was Americans in Germany. I was in the Royal Air Force, Royal Air Force Reserve, so I had served in the military, and I didn't know that there were still Americans in Germany,
There
let
are.
alone 30 to 40,000 of them with their own radio stations apparently. So I contacted them and ended up working for them for 3 years. Then I went into multimedia production, still for the military, so it was great. I was photographing and doing videography on training exercises. So chasing the troops around, filming the helicopters and the missiles going off, and goodness knows what.
Oh my god.
Then I was in corporate communications, so we call it public affairs in Stuttgart during COVID. So you imagine the misinformation and disinformation going around during COVID. And then I came back to AFN 3 years ago to kind of look after the whole of radio.
Man, Paul, you had quite a professional life, man. You've been all around. And you record missiles and what now? That's incredible. That's so fun. So you mentioned Stuttgart for a second there.
Hmm.
I did had a guest on the podcast. His name is Damon Wells.
Okay.
He's a U.S. I think general, if I'm not mistaken, stationary
Okay.
in Stuttgart, and he was a host here on the podcast. I guess you did not hear about him.
No, I don't know that name. That doesn't surprise me though. Just Stuttgart is such a big base.
Yeah. What they're all doing there? Ask him. He's like, oh no, I'm just stationary. He's like, okay, but it's what's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, Stuttgart is the home to what we call MAJCOM, so Major Command. So if there was a war that broke out, in Europe, you've got the command of the whole of the US forces in Europe based in Stuttgart. You have the command of the whole of the US forces based in Africa. In Stuttgart, you have the Special Operations Command in Stuttgart. You have the Marines command in Stuttgart.
Oh my
So
god.
there's outside of the US, it's like the most concentrated area for kind of American power in the world.
That's insane. I think most people. I had no idea about that. I think most people don't, right?
No, they don't. I think the Americans are going quietly about their business. If you live in one of those communities as a German person, you know that they're there and you know kind of what goes on. But I think if you're not in that military sphere, then you have no idea. I mean, Ramstein here employs 70 to 80,000 people, and then Bavaria another 40. So it's huge. There's a lot of people here kind of helping to keep us safe and deter kind of adversaries like Russia. They don't want to poke the bear. They don't want to go and bomb somewhere where the Americans are, because that would be trouble.
I mean, that's the whole point, right? From what I understand from an outsider, my perspective is from the U.S. military is that they try to be everywhere all the time. It's like how to say in English, omnipotent
Omnipotent, yeah.
force everywhere. So just don't mess up with us, because don't mess up with us, because we're gonna retaliate. We're everywhere all the time, and we have the force for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's it. But yeah, that's what it is, and that is what President Trump and their administration have such an issue with at the moment is that,
Really?
hey, we've been spending so much money and having all of our troops deployed in your country, and whilst we've been spending this money on defense, you guys have been spending your money on, like schools and public transport, social health care, all the things that these guys despise, is what we've been spending all the on the money on. So it's just why there's such an issue with the US, and NATO and the European forces at the moment, because they're like, why are we paying for a European war in Ukraine? You guys need to deal with it. And Europe's slowly stepping up. So it's interesting to see the shift in that dynamic. I think ultimately it's to a loss, because those organizations in NATO buy a lot of US weaponry, but if they see that the US are flip-flopping on these things, they might start buying more European weaponry, which is bad for the US stock investors. But anyway, what do I know? I'm a radio DJ.
Well, you probably know more than a lot of people. I mean, especially if you're in the armed forces. Like, it's an armed force radio show, so yeah. I saw, I think yesterday, like some type of attack happened in Iraq, right?
There's a lot going on in the Iran and Israel,
Iran. I'm sorry. Yeah.
and a number of our locations out in the Middle East have been put on a higher alert because of the threats the Iranians are making to our locations. So that's the US, the French, and the British forces all have bases out there, in the Middle East. But I just hope that it's all a bunch of posturing and nonsense, and